I stand on the porch of Grandfather William's farmhouse, the Virginia sun glinting off the service medals pinned to my pressed uniform. 22 years in Cyber Command. And here I am, finally home. My hand rises to knock, the lieutenant colonel insignia catching the light. The door swings open before my knuckles connect. Jenna's face transforms from expectant to stone cold in an instant. "You're not welcome here," she says, her voice flat. The door slams shut with such force that the ancient brass knocker rattles against the wood. My hand freezes mid-air, suspended in the moment like time itself has stopped. The sound echoes across the wraparound porch where Grandfather and I used to shell peas during summer thunderstorms. "Jenna!" I call out, military training keeping my voice steady despite the tremor building inside my chest. "What's going on? We talked last week about me moving in." Silence. Then the crunch of gravel draws my attention to a county sheriff's vehicle pulling into the driveway. Two officers approach, their expressions a practice neutral. "Lieutenant Colonel Kessler?" the older officer asks, his gaze lingering respectfully on my uniform. "Yes, that's me." I straighten instinctively, shoulders squaring. "Ma'am, we received a call about a disturbance." "I'm Officer Wilson." He glances uncomfortably at his younger partner. "Property records show this house belongs to Franklin and Jenna Kessler now." The words hit like artillery fire. There must be some mistake. My grandfather William promised this house to me when I retired. It's in his will. I remember sitting with Grandfather on his back porch 2 years ago, watching fireflies rise from the meadow grass. His weathered hand patted mine as he spoke words I've replayed countless times during my final deployment. "This place will be yours when you come home, Morgan. It's all in the will." I'd believed him completely. Enough to sell my DC apartment before my final deployment. Enough to ship all my belongings here, to what I thought would be my forever home. Just last month, Jenna had called me on a scratchy video connection. "We're making some updates to the house," she'd said, eyes shifting away from the camera when I asked about the details. No mention of our father's return. No hint that everything had changed. The front door opens again. Jenna steps onto the porch, arms folded tightly across her chest. "There's nothing to understand. Dad fixed the paperwork. You abandoned us for your career." I reach into my uniform pocket and remove my military ID and discharge papers, holding them out to Officer Wilson. My hands don't shake. They never do, not even under fire. "I just need to understand what's happened to my grandfather's will." I say, the words precise and measured. "Your grandfather's will became irrelevant when you chose the military over your family obligations," Jenna spits. I feel my spine straighten further, chin lifting slightly. "I'll be looking into this," I reply, voice level despite the hurricane building behind my ribs. A shadow darkens the doorway behind Jenna. Our father, Franklin, steps onto the porch. His face is granite, unchanged by the years except for deeper lines around his mouth. "You chose the military over family," he says, each word a calculated strike. "You don't get to claim family property." Officer Wilson clears his throat. "Ma'am, I'm afraid without clear documentation we can't help you today. You'll need to take this up through proper legal channels." Reality crashes down. I have nowhere to go. My belongings are in transit. My military career officially ended yesterday. 22 years of service, and I'm standing on the wrong side of a locked door. "Understood," I say, falling back on the only language that never fails me: military protocol. I walk back to my car with measured steps. Pulling across the street, I park under the massive oak tree where Grandfather taught me to identify birdsong. From here, I can see the entire property. I take out a small notebook and begin documenting every detail: license plates, times, movements. If there's one thing the military taught me, it's how to gather intelligence before engaging the enemy, even when the enemy is your own blood. But I will stand on my feet. I will not allow them to crush me down. Next day, after I slept in a nearby hotel, I met Elena at Rosie's Diner, the vinyl booth squeaking as I slid in across from her. 24 hours since I stood on that porch, and the uniform is tucked away now. I've traded Lieutenant Colonel insignia for civilian clothes that still feel foreign against my skin. "Thanks for making time," I say, my voice steadier than the tremor in my hands. Elena Park hasn't changed much since our college days, still direct, still brilliant. Her legal pad sits beside her coffee, already filled with notes. "Morgan," she says, pulling out her tablet. "I found something you need to see." The waitress refills our cups. Steam rises between us like a fragile barrier soon to be shattered. Property records show the house transferred 4 months ago. Elena's finger slides across the screen. To a company called Maple Rock Ventures LLC. I lean forward. That's not possible. I was deployed. With your signature on the transfer. My coffee cup clatters against the saucer. Dark liquid sloshing over the rim. The signature on the screen is unmistakable, the distinctive way I cross my T's. The slight angle of the M. That's not my signature. I whisper, though it looks exactly like mine. I never signed this. Elena's eyes narrow. Morgan, they didn't just take the house, they're using your name. She points to the notary stamp in the corner. This is from Carlton County. When's the last time you were there? 13 years ago. Training exercise at Fort Haywood. The diner around us continues its morning rhythm, silverware against plates, murmured conversations, the hiss of the grill. My world has stopped, but no one notices. This is just the beginning, Elena says. Later, spread across the mahogany table in Elena's office, documents tell a story of meticulous betrayal. I sit rigid in military posture while Elena stands, moving between papers like plotting troop movements on a battlefield map. Forged notary stamps on multiple documents, she says, placing them in a neat row. And here the original will mysteriously transferred to a different county clerk's office. I examine the papers. My grandfather's original will had clearly left the farmhouse to me. The amended version now favors Franklin and Jenna. The transfer happened during your last deployment. Elena continues. The digital trail shows someone accessing your personal accounts from a Defense Department server. My knuckles whiten against the edge of the table. My father works for the Defense Department. He knows how to manipulate systems. Elena nods, placing another document before me. This isn't just fraud, it's identity theft at a sophisticated level. Your signature is on documents you never saw. The room feels suddenly cold. After years analyzing security threats overseas, I never expected the attack to come from within my own bloodline. But things change, I guess. How bad is it? I ask. Elena's face grows grave. If the false financial documents in your name surface during routine audits, your military record could be compromised. She points to bank statements showing accounts I never opened, transactions I never made, withdrawals and deposits in perfect, suspicious rhythms. There's more. Public utility records for the house show unusually high energy consumption over the past 4 months, consistent with heavy equipment. My throat tightens. What are they doing in there? I don't know, Elena says, but systematic fraud of this level could trigger federal investigations. She meets my eyes directly. Morgan, they would initially target you. Your military pension and benefits could be frozen during investigation. The words hit harder than any explosion I've endured in the field. After 22 years of service, I could be labeled a criminal because of my own family. Elena's hand covers mine briefly, a rare gesture from someone as professionally reserved as I am. We're not letting that happen. She turns to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. I'm filing an emergency motion to initiate a quiet title dispute. More typing. And flagging the property for financial review. A small victory, but it's something to build on. Military strategy. Secure your position before advancing. That night, I sit in my car across from the farmhouse, windows slightly fogged as rain begins to fall. Lights move inside what should have been my home. Shadows pass behind curtains, my father, my sister, her husband. People I share blood with but no longer understand. Watching them, I wonder at what cost our family will break apart. The porch light catches on the brass knocker, the same one I touched as a child, racing to tell grandfather about school achievements he always celebrated. The same door that slammed in my face yesterday. As I watch, a van pulls into the driveway, its lights off before it fully stops. 2 men unload something into the basement entrance around back. I start the engine, military training kicking in. Maintain distance. Observe. Document. The question circles in my mind like a reconnaissance drone. Should I confront my family directly with what I've discovered, potentially giving them time to hide evidence? Or should I build my case silently, treating them as I would any cyber adversary? What would you do when the people who should protect you become the threat? The government warning lands in my inbox at 0600. Lieutenant Colonel Kessler, unauthorized shipments have been approved using your credentials. Please confirm or deny immediately. My stomach knots as I forward it to Elena. 3 days of sleeping in a hotel and now this. Not just the house, they're stealing my very identity. This pit seems bottomless all of a sudden. My former commanding officer, Colonel Walsh, calls an hour later. Morgan, we've flagged suspicious activity under your name. Military-grade equipment being rerouted to private storage facilities. Her voice carries the weight of decades of service. This isn't just about retirement paperwork anymore. I understand. Thank you for the warning. Be careful. Your father still has contacts at Defense. As if summoned by her words, a property transfer notification appears on my phone. Franklin has accelerated the paperwork, leveraging connections I once thought protected this country. Now they protect only him. My phone buzzes with an unknown number. You're playing with fire. We have your military psych file. The message sits on my screen like a digital grenade. 22 years of service, and now my own psychological evaluations meant to ensure I was fit to serve weaponized against me. I forward it to Elena, documenting each escalation with military precision. Night falls as I recline my driver's seat, the closest thing to a bed I have now. The Virginia summer heat makes sleep impossible even with windows cracked. I check my dwindling bank account enough for a motel, but leaving would mean abandoning surveillance. Through my windshield the next day, I watch unmarked vans arrive well past midnight, their headlights cut through darkness as they back up to the basement entrance. My counterintelligence training kicks in. I document license plates, arrival times, departure patterns. The vans always arrive after local police patrols pass. Always leave before dawn. Yesterday should have been my retirement ceremony. I imagine the auditorium at Fort Meade, dress blues and polished brass, the commander's speech about duty and sacrifice. Instead, I'm alone in a sedan with dwindling gas, watching strangers unload cargo into what should be my home. My phone vibrates with messages from Riley and Jared, former task force colleagues concerned by my absence at the ceremony. Their worry feels like the only warmth in this cold new reality. By morning, a folded paper appears at the hotel reception desk. I scan for watchers before retrieving it, military caution now second nature in civilian clothes. Your grandfather helped me once. Meet me behind Brookhaven Lane at 11 p.m. if you want to know what's happening in that basement. Wes Doyle, USMC, 1968 to 1972. The note trembles in my steady hands. The first potential ally in this one-sided war. That night, the Brookhaven Lane borders an auto repair shop where rusted-out pickup trucks wait for resurrection. At precisely 2,300 hours, I approach the shadowed area behind the main building, wearing dark clothing and combat boots that make no sound on gravel. A figure emerges from between stacked tires. Weathered face, Vietnam-era military posture despite age-bent shoulders. Lieutenant Colonel Kessler. He doesn't extend his hand. Smart. No sudden movements in shadows. Mr. Doyle. I keep my voice low. You knew my grandfather? William pulled me out of a burning Jeep in 2063, before Vietnam. His eyes dart toward the street. Been watching that house since he passed. William would be heartbroken to see what they're doing to his home and his name. What exactly are they doing? Those vans? Delivering sealed government crates. Your brother-in-law's company handles logistics for surplus equipment, but this ain't surplus. Wes shifts his weight. Been military long enough to recognize contraband when I see it. Something loosens in my chest. I'm not paranoid. I'm not alone. Your sister's husband unloads them himself. No witnesses, but I've been counting shipments for months. Wes pulls out a small notebook with dates, times, military precision from a different war. Thank you. My voice cracks on the words. I've spent my career protecting my country from threats. I never imagined I'd need to protect myself from my family. Wes nods, understanding in his eyes. Sometimes the enemy wears a familiar face, Colonel. My spine straightens. My jaw sets. They've declared war on my honor. I'll respond accordingly. The next morning, I make 2 calls. First to Jared Lynn, cybersecurity specialist from my last deployment. Then to Riley Trent, digital forensics expert who once traced terrorist financing through 17 shell companies. We need your expertise. I tell them, abandoning military formality for the first time. Off the books. They don't hesitate. While my blood relatives betray me, my military family rallies without question. In the military, we leave no one behind. Riley reminds me as we establish secure communication channels. I won't abandon you now. With their help, I begin building a chain of digital evidence. Jared traces the property transfers while Riley analyzes the metadata on fraudulent documents. That night, I deploy equipment borrowed from Riley. A discreet body camera records Derek Jenna's husband unloading crates bearing government markings. His movements are furtive, nervous, the confidence of criminals who believe they're untouchable. I place a digital recorder inside a ventilation shaft accessible from the exterior, capturing voices including my father saying words that chill me. If the officer finds out, cut the line. By morning, the recorder has vanished. But they're too late. The evidence is already backed up, transmitted, secured, my first counterattack complete. They thought they were targeting a retiring officer. They didn't realize they were declaring war on someone trained to fight back. In days to come, I transform Elena's office into a war room. Maps of property records, financial statements, and surveillance logs cover every inch of the worn oak surface where I once helped him shell summer peas. Elena stands beside me, her legal pad filled with neat annotations. "You're treating this like a military operation," she says, watching me arrange evidence chronologically. Because at Island, I place sticky flags on the forged documents. My family declared war on my honor. I'm responding accordingly. Most clients cry when they see evidence like this. You're cataloging it. My fingers pause over a notary stamp. 22 years of military service taught me emotions cloud tactical judgment. I'll feel everything later after we win. Jared's voice crackles through my laptop speaker. "Morgan, I've traced the shell companies. Maple Rock Ventures links directly to 5 offshore accounts, all opened with your social security number and military credentials. Can you document the digital trail?" I ask, my voice steady despite the violation churning in my stomach. Already compiled. The timestamps match nights when large shipments arrived at the house. Derek isn't subtle with his logistics operation. Riley's window appears on screen. I've analyzed the audio recordings from the ventilation shaft. Voice recognition confirms it's your father discussing government shipments. The phrase, "cut the line," appears twice, once referencing Officer Wilson. Elena's eyebrows rise. This goes beyond family fraud. These are federal crimes. And they're using my identity to commit them. I straighten my shoulders, the same way I did before high-risk deployments. What's our next move? I've drafted an emergency injunction. Elena places a legal document beside my laptop. This freezes all property transfers linked to the house until ownership is established. Judge Patterson signed it this morning. The first tactical victory feels hollow. My home remains out of reach, but the enemy's position has weakened. My phone vibrates. A text from an unlisted number. Elena Park has been flagged for review by the Defense Department's Ethics Committee. I show Elena, whose eyes narrow. "Your father's trying to pressure my firm. He doesn't understand how badly that'll backfire." She types rapidly on her phone. "Just alerted our senior partners. Congratulations to your father, he just made your case a priority for our entire litigation team." That evening, I notice headlights following my car as I drive from Elena's office. The vehicle maintains exactly 3 car lengths behind me, military standard for surveillance. Amateur. I take 4 consecutive right turns, confirming my tale. Derek's profile is visible when he passes under a streetlight. I drive directly to the sheriff's office, park in the well-lit front lot, and document the time, license plate, and driver description. Deputy Alvarez takes my statement, adding it to our growing evidence file. When I check social media that night, I find Jenna's public post. "Heartbroken that my sister's mental issues from deployment have made her paranoid and delusional. Please pray for her recovery." I screenshot it immediately, forwarding it to Elena with a single line. "Add defamation to the charges." 2 days later, Elena calls with an unexpected proposal. They've offered a settlement. $300,000 if you drop all claims and investigations. Her voice carries professional detachment. It's a substantial amount, enough to purchase a comparable property elsewhere. I watch the setting sun paint my grandfather's weathered barn golden, the land he worked with his own hands after returning from Korea. The place where he taught me that honor, once lost, is nearly impossible to reclaim. When Elena suggested we could settle quietly for financial compensation, I hesitated. Should I accept a settlement that would secure my future but let them keep my grandfather's house? Or risk everything to expose their crimes completely? I let 20 seconds pass before responding. This was never about the money. Wes meets us at Elena's office the next morning. his Vietnam veteran's cap perched on his silver hair. His sworn testimony about midnight deliveries spanning 6 months provides the timeline we needed. William and I served different wars, but we shared the same values. Wes says, signing his affidavit, "He'd be proud of you fighting for what's right, Morgan." Riley arrives with digital evidence showing Derek's logistics firm diverting government shipments to private storage facilities, all using my security credentials. Jared completes our tactical advantage by tracing the financial web to offshore accounts. I've documented 18 transactions using Morgan's stolen identity, all connecting back to Maple Rock Ventures. Elena reviews our consolidated evidence. This creates an airtight case connecting the forgery to a much larger scheme. She closes her laptop with a decisive click. The federal investigators are now focusing on Franklin, Jenna, and Derek rather than you, Morgan. That evening, I park across from the farmhouse, maintaining my surveillance position. Through my binoculars, I see Derek gesturing angrily at Franklin in the driveway. Their body language reveals the first cracks in their unified front shoulders rigid, fingers jabbing the air between them. Later, Jenna rushes to her car, phone pressed to her ear. With my window cracked, her panicked words drift across the quiet street. "They're looking into the accounts. What do we do?" I lower my binoculars and allow myself the first smile in weeks. Elena texted an hour ago we have a federal court date, and a civil enforcement officer will serve the injunction directly. The counteroffensive is working. For the first time since coming home, I can see a path to victory. On the day of the confrontation, I pull my service uniform from the hotel room closet, the fabric still perfect regardless of how many times I have worn it. The weight of the metals feels right against my chest as I button the jacket, my fingers tracing the lieutenant colonel insignia that defined my identity for so long. When I meet Elena to go to the house that was once to be mine, "Are you sure about this approach?" Elena asks, adjusting her briefcase on the passenger seat. Franklin's intermediary seemed desperate to settle. "That's exactly why we push forward," I reply, smoothing my jacket. His offer was insulting. A small payout to forget the house my grandfather promised me, while they profit from contracts using my stolen identity? A man in a cheap suit had approached me yesterday outside the diner, clearing his throat nervously. "Your father authorized me to offer a settlement," he'd said, eyes darting to his buzzing phone every few seconds. $50,000. You drop all claims, all investigations." When I hesitated, his tone hardened. "Lieutenant Colonel, your father mentioned something about potential issues with your military records. Accidental damage to files happens all the time in government databases." I almost laughed. The threat was textbook counterintelligence pressure tactics: create fear, offer minimal concession, imply worse consequences. I'd taught these techniques to junior officers. The civil enforcement officer's cruiser pulls up behind us. Officer Daniels steps out, his expression professionally neutral as he approaches with a leather portfolio tucked under his arm. "Ready when you are, Lieutenant Colonel." I nod, straightening my shoulders. "Let's proceed." We walk in formation up the gravel drive, my boots crunching with each deliberate step. The house looks different today, less like a stolen inheritance, and more like a battlefield to be reclaimed. Franklin opens the door before we knock. His face hardens at the sight of my uniform. "This isn't necessary," he says, blocking the entrance. "We can talk reasonably." "Franklin Kessler?" Officer Daniels steps forward. "I'm here to serve federal court documents freezing all assets related to this property and associated business entities pending investigation." Franklin's eyes widen as Elena presents the injunction. "All accounts linked to Maple Rock Ventures are suspended," she explains. "The court has granted temporary restraining orders against any property transfers or contract fulfillments." I stand perfectly still, parade rest position, watching my father's composure crack. Behind him, Jenna appears in the hallway, her face pale. "You can't do this," Franklin hisses, turning to Officer Daniels. "Do you know who I am? I have contacts at the highest levels of the Defense Department." Officer Daniels doesn't flinch. "Sir, threatening a federal officer will only complicate your situation." The threat reveals Franklin's character more clearly than any evidence could. I step forward, my voice calm but carrying the authority of 22 years of command. "This isn't personal," I say, meeting his gaze directly. "This is about honor and law." "You're destroying this family over a house," Franklin spits. 22 years defending this country taught me to recognize enemies," I reply evenly, "even when they're family." Jenna suddenly crumples against the wall, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know how far it would go, she whispers. Derek and Dad planned everything. I just looked the other way when they started using the basement for storage. Her confession hangs in the air between us, but I feel nothing, neither satisfaction nor pity, only the cold certainty of a mission nearing completion. 2 weeks later, I stand before Judge Harriman in the federal courthouse, my evidence arranged chronologically in front of me. Across the aisle, Franklin, Jenna, and Derek sit with their attorney, a man whose expensive suit can't hide his nervous adjustments of his tie. Lieutenant Colonel Kessler, please present your evidence, Judge Harriman says, her gaze sharp and attentive. I begin methodically, military precision evident in each movement as I display the forged documents, the voice recordings, the financial trails connecting Maple Rock Ventures to government contracts. The transfer of my grandfather's property relied on forged signatures. I explain, pointing to the enlarged documents on the screen. Forensic analysis confirms the signature variants from my military records. Franklin interrupts, rising from his seat. This is absurd. She's bitter about... Mr. Kessler, Judge Harriman cuts in sharply. Lieutenant Colonel Kessler has the floor. I continue without acknowledging the interruption. These logistics contracts from Derek Kessler's company show systematic diversion of government materials using my military credentials to authorize shipments. Derek's face drains of color as his contracts appear on screen, complete with highlighted sections showing the fraud. The evidence is overwhelming. When I finish, Judge Harriman's ruling is swift and unequivocal. All assets will remain frozen pending criminal investigation. Passports are to be surrendered immediately. This case will be referred to the Defense Department Inspector General's office. Outside the courthouse, reporters cluster at the bottom of the steps. Jenna breaks away from Franklin and Derek, approaching me with red-rimmed eyes. Morgan, please, can we talk? I didn't understand what was happening until it was too late. I look at my sister, really look at her. Seeing the person who stood by while my identity was stolen, my inheritance taken, my military reputation risked. Without a word, I walk past her, my footsteps echoing on the marble steps. A reporter thrusts a microphone toward me. Lieutenant Colonel Kessler, can you comment on today's ruling? I pause, aware of the cameras capturing my perfectly pressed uniform, the rigid military posture that never wavers. This case isn't about a house. I say clearly, it's about honoring those who serve this country with integrity. That evening, I scan a news alert on my phone about a broader Defense Department investigation into contract fraud. The article mentions Franklin and Derek by name, with hints of connections to other department officials. Later, standing alone at Arlington National Cemetery as sunset paints the rows of white headstones gold, I find Grandfather William's grave. His weathered headstone bears the simple inscription, William Kessler, Captain, United States Army, Korea, honor above all. I remove my lieutenant colonel insignia, placing it gently beside the small American flag marking his grave. Mission accomplished, sir. I whisper, the evening breeze carrying my words across the hallowed ground. The question of Jenna remains unanswered. Whether blood ties can ever be stronger than betrayal is something only time will tell. For now, I've reclaimed something more valuable than property: my name, my honor, and my grandfather's legacy of integrity. 6 months pass like water through cupped hands. I stand at the entrance of my cybersecurity firm, watching the morning light glint off the modest sign. Kessler Identity Protection. The brass lettering catches the sun the way my lieutenant colonel insignia once did, but this shine feels different, earned rather than assigned. Inside, 3 analysts work at standing desks, helping a Vietnam veteran recover his compromised pension benefits. My focus has shifted from shielding classified government systems to protecting individuals who lack the resources to fight back. There's satisfaction in seeing immediate impact rather than defending against faceless threats. We've secured his accounts, calls Tamara, one of our specialists, 4th veteran this month. I nod, glancing at the single framed photograph on my desk. Grandfather William and me, both in uniform, his Vietnam War one beside my Cyber Command blues. His weathered smile reminds me daily why this work matters. The county sheriff's notification arrived yesterday. The farmhouse auction is scheduled for next week. I drive there alone, gravel crunching under tires like memories being crushed to dust. The key still works. I push open the front door, expecting the familiar rush of anger and betrayal to wash over me. Instead, I feel nothing but quiet recognition. Empty rooms echo with faded conversations. Dust motes dance in sunlight streaming through windows that need washing. I walk through each room methodically, the way I'd once documented evidence. This time, I'm noting only what needs repair before the sale. This place doesn't define my connection to my grandfather. I say aloud, surprising myself with the truth of it. His values live on through my actions, not his possessions. In the study, I place his favorite book on the mantle, a dog-eared copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. Not reclaiming it, just leaving it where it belongs. A gesture of closure, not attachment. Later that evening, the Veterans Hall glows with soft amber light. Elena raises her glass, legal briefs forgotten for one night. Wes sits with the straight back of military bearing despite his 70 years. Jared and Riley have pushed their chairs close to the table, creating our own command center. To battles fought and honor restored, Elena says, clinking glasses. I reach into my jacket pocket and place 5 small boxes on the table. For each of you. They open them simultaneously. Silver compasses gleam against black velvet, each engraved with the words, True North. For those who help others find their way, I explain, my voice steadier than the trembling in my chest. 2 weeks later, I stand before 20 veterans at the community center, pointing to slides showing common identity fraud tactics. These men and women understand loss and reinvention better than most. The application is on your desk, Wes whispers when he passes by. Veterans advocacy position with defense. They need someone with your background. I nod, continuing my presentation until reaching a slide about family-perpetrated fraud. The words catch momentarily in my throat. Sometimes the people closest to us can cause the deepest wounds. I say, finding strength in the communal understanding reflected in these veterans' eyes. But those wounds don't define us. As I packed away my military uniform for the last time, I wondered if some betrayals can ever truly be forgiven, or if some relationships are healthier viewed as battles won rather than connections restored. What would you do? Try to rebuild with family who betrayed you, or focus on creating a new family of choice with those who stood by you in your darkest hour?